Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Town Board of the Town of Philipstown at the Town Hall, 238 Main Street, Cold Spring, New York, on the 6th day of December 2018 at 7:15 p.m. in the evening of that day upon the question of a proposed local law to amend Town Code Chapter 175 to add the uses of art gallery and museum to the uses permitted in the office, commercial, industry mixed-use OC district. All persons interested will be heard at the time, date, and place specified above. A complete copy of the proposed local law is on file in the town clerk's office, Town of Philipstown, Town Hall, 238 Main Street, Cold Spring, New York, where it may be examined during the town office hours by order of the Town Board of the Town of Philipstown, dated November 21st, 2018. Tina M. Mirando, Town Clerk.
Okay, this is something we've been looking at for a while, and scheduled the public hearing for tonight. This is in reference to the Magazzino, and they had come to us to ask if we could help them for the purposes of not having to schedule appointments by becoming a museum. So subsequent to that, though, I will say we're going to need some clarity on the tax implications of this. This may need further modification, but we're not sure yet. But at any rate, just before we even go into public hearing, public comment, which doesn't look like we're going to have a lot of, I would say we're not going to move on this tonight. I have to meet again with them next week to discuss their intent as far as the tax implications go to the town. So with that, I would open it up to the public. Hey.
Kim Connor, East Mountain Road South. I'm just wondering what changed, because they wrote a letter saying they didn't want a museum to be a museum to the paper. So what changed?
What changed was well, in my mind, nothing had changed. The only thing that the thing they came to us for was it was inconvenient to have people making appointments to come to this building to look at art. So they wanted to just have the public be able to come, and that was it. What changed, that's one thing I'll be asking next week, is, subsequent to heading down this road and finding out that they may be applying for a 501c3, or I don't know if it's a 501c4, but a not-for-profit status. And if they were able to get that, then there'd be tax implications to the town, because if they're not for profit, then they might not be paying property taxes, and then we probably wouldn't be doing this. The thing in our mind was just for convenience and to allow them to continue along with less of a burden. So I don't know.
May I?
Yeah, sure.
I had some preliminary meetings with Giorgio and Miguel, the architect, and when we started the discussion about how to make this more accessible to the public, what came up was finding the right use term, and as far as land use terms go, and it was difficult to find the right term. I think the initial conversation was to not become a museum, because that implies a not-for-profit status, and Giorgio specifically made it clear that they're here not looking for a break in taxes. They're here for the community. They've been paying full taxes all these years, and they intend to continue, was my understanding. Mm-hmm. So through the process of coming to the museum designation, we went through a lot of different scenarios between assembly space, art gallery, and in working it through with our attorney and them, we came to museum with the understanding that it would still continue to be a for-profit. And the news, I don't know where the information came that they're becoming a not-for-profit, so that's what we have to clarify.
We're not certain that they are becoming a not-for-profit.
So we're just being
cautious. So we want to verify that before we go ahead. Art gallery wouldn't denote, probably wouldn't avail them to the becoming a not-for-profit. Museum could. So this is where the terms matter.
But then the many uses that they intend for the space for concerts, film, and public use it's hard to define
Yeah.
in a zoning code.
So I just want to go back to what they came to the planning board with, which was that they had an art collection that they wanted to store, that they were going to have a caretaker,
Mhm.
right? And that was how they presented themselves to the planning board. And I, totally agree that, like, it's great to have it. It's a lot of, it's fun. It's an asset for the community. But once again, I'd just like to remind all of us that they didn't follow the process. And it's true that, when you start a business, you may find that after you've been doing it for a while, that the way you initially thought it was going to be, changes, right? And the needs change and stuff like that. But, if they had come to us and said they were going to be a museum from the beginning, we might have had more parking regulations. There might have been something to do with their entrance. Right.
Understood, yeah.
So just from a sort of a planning perspective,
And
Just
out of
be-
respect for your process and the
yeah, just
process
be
of the planning
mindful.
board, yeah.
That I know it's common to, do something and then ask forgiveness later.
Mm-hmm.
But
No, they
it's-
haven't done anything like that yet. I mean, the thing that they've done is approach the town board, ask for this change. It's been a completely public process. It's not as if anybody's going around, behind anyone's back here.
I'm not
I mean,
saying
and,
it's-
and again, I would go back to your point. You don't know what's going to happen when you start a business. They
Right.
never, I don't think they expected, I don't think anybody expected this to be as wildly popular as it is to have.
The bottom line is it could be a factory.
No,
We
no,
could
and
have-
I'm
we
not
could
saying that.
have,
But-
20 or 30 employees pulling in that, because that's what it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of things could be. It's in an industrial space.
But, I mean, Kim, I understand your concern as you have been from the beginning and made it clear from the beginning with understanding the planning process, because you were there from the preliminary meetings, that you want us to be cautious of this, and I get it, and you're right, because it has changed scenarios several times, so I think,
I'm not sure what scenarios have changed.
well, with the planning, as far as the planning board's concerned, I've talked to many members of the planning board, they're just kind of put back a little
But
bit.
I
and-
would caution anyone to start speaking for the planning
I'm not
board right
speaking
now.
for the planning board.
Right,
I'm
so
speaking for myself, but if you went back to the planning board minutes.
Members.
Hold on, you're not speaking for the planning board, but.
No, but I mean, part of your responsibility, is to take what the boards have to say into account.
Yes, absolutely.
And there was a lot of discussion, which is in the record, at our meetings about what the use of the space was going to be.
Mhm.
And there was, there was discussion that it wasn't going to be public assembly, that it was only going to be by appointment, that there weren't going to be a lot of people there. And so I get that, I just want to just remind us of how we got where we are. That's all.
Yeah, and I would
Yeah.
also remind all of us there are pragmatic concerns here. As John alluded to, this could be an industrial site. And when it comes down to it, we have the planning board, we have our local law, but we also have common sense. When you look at the outcome of this, it couldn't possibly be any better. It couldn't. And as far as parking goes, I don't know how many parking spaces they have, but when I pull in there, I've never seen a full parking lot there, ever. And I've been to.
If that's a concern, I'm sure we could
Right,
ask
and
them
if we
to
went
increase the
back to
parking,
them,
because they have
if
plenty
we
of
went back
property
to
in the
them,
back there.
and I
where
know
they
I'm
have-
speaking anecdotally, but
I'm not saying don't do this. I'm just saying, remember that this is how we got to where we are.
right.
And
and
that's
we've-
all. And I'm just stating that again. So I'll rest now.
No, we've heard
And-
that concern, I know, but again,
I,
it's been a public process all along. It was a public process at the planning board, it was a public process with the town board.
I'm not saying it wasn't a public process.
No,
I'm not saying that.
I understand you're pointing out to
I
us
just, you know,
how we
I'm
got where we
always concerned about precedent, right?
Well,
And, you know, and about, you know, if we're gonna, I don't know.
in taking or not taking this action, we're not setting any precedent. This is an available avenue to the town board.
Okay,
It's not a precedent-setting avenue. This is an action that the town board is within its purview to take or not take, but on an individual basis.
If this is gonna be delayed, we should look into, you know, some of the building code issues if it goes from this to a museum as well. Sorry. Maybe we could, I'll speak with, and Greg and see if the museum classification would, you know, expose it to different. you know,
Right, because becoming a public space
Right, now
as
it's a
compared
public
to-
museum.
Yeah, there are
versus a-
several things,
right.
and that's why the pause.
Yeah.
Right
and-
now.
And the fact that, we've been at this for a long time, and
A year.
it's not been clear really ever. So to your point, let's get some
yeah,
clarification.
and I guess when I stood up and I said, what changed, I didn't mean what changed in your process, I meant what changed for the owner.
Right.
Because the owner wrote a letter to the paper saying they did not want to be a museum. So that was just really where my question started. Like, how did they change their minds? Because that was not so long ago that,
Right.
you know, that they
No, I
said
don't,
that.
I don't disagree with that.
You know,
I think-
that's what I meant.
And again, to meet, that's the whole intent of, I'm gonna meet with them next week and say,
I think it's more of a convenience thing that they could open regular hours and
Oh, yeah.
their doors would be open, we're open, you know, whatever the hours would be, instead of currently you have to call and make an appointment to come in. So I mean, that would make it a little
Yeah.
easier for him to operate, I'm sure.
right,
Thank you.
okay.
Thanks, Ken.
Anyone else? Anything from the board
Length of the discussion.
regarding Magazino?
Magazino, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Quick question, I was just wondering, is that gonna affect the tax payments that the place makes?
That's what we were just
I
discussing.
missed that, I missed into the discussion, okay.
That's our
Yeah, I'm
concern.
sorry.
That's all right.
So we're, just to re-answer that, we're not moving on this tonight
Okay.
to address that very issue. So,
So you'll talk to them because it's,
I'm meeting with them on Monday,
okay, good.
and I've had multiple meetings with them.
Yeah,
but
me too.
the-
It's not clear, so, yeah.
I'll leave it at that, yeah.
Maybe we'll go by a different name besides the museum or something, gotta.
Well, we have
You know.
two things, two distinctions right now, art gallery and museum, so. We'll get it figured out.
Yeah.
We usually do. We're fairly able.
Yeah.
Could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right. If you'll join us in the pledge.
Oh.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start tonight's meeting, I would like to have a moment of silence to honor the fallen president, George Bush Sr. I watched a lot of, no one does pageantry like America, I will say that. It was quite an event in Texas today. So with that, if we could have a moment of silence. Okay, and I know that the whole country offers its condolences to the Bush family, and we do too. All right. Okay, approval of minutes, monthly town board meeting of November 1, 2018.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Public hearings of November 7th, 2018 on the 2019 budget.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Special weekly meeting of November 7th, 2018.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Committee reports, Conservation Board.
Okay, the Conservation Board met on November 13th. At first, there was two planning board referrals. I'll just refer quickly to the items that dealt with for conservation planning, is obviously the lead agency for that. Dealing with the first one is the Lower Residence. This is 80 Erie Road. This is raising a 53-foot square foot single-family home and constructing a 5,216 square feet single family, also a garage. Basically, the Conservation Board determined that no wetlands permits would be required for this, and they did not have any actual concerns based on, again, conservation items. The second item was Conley, Route 403. This is, again, a site plan approval of a single-family residence. This will involve a well and a septic. Again, the Conservation Board takes a look at it from their scope of it, dealing with site access. In this particular case, the Conservation Board determined that a wetlands permit would be required. The applicant was advised as well that disturbance, a DEC disturbance requirement of 1 acre is very close here, or 0.98. So the wetlands inspector cautioned them to make sure that they're accurate on that, because when the DEC notices very close to a requirement which would require further actions to be taken, it's very important that you're accurate when doing so. Also, the CB suggested a clay barrier. This would be basically placed around the well area, and this, especially if there's a lot of refill in this area, this obviously creates a barrier protection and protects the actual well water systems. The Conservation Board also suggested a landscape design, which of course provided both a softer image for the property and also some cost-effective measures, which would be beneficial to the applicant as well. Also looked at that night was Ashley 3 Ethan Drive. This is a repeat from a previous month. This is a house up in Continental Village that originally existed at one time. It was apparently very difficult to actually find the records to exactly where the house is located, which caused a lot of concerns. I'd say the short of the story, because it went back and forth, took most of the time, because I think what happens a lot of times is applicants really need to pay attention to what they're asked for initially when they're coming back. For instance, in this case, it's a property that borders the town of Cortland. So naturally, the first thing the Conservation Board has to look into is there any issues regarding Cortland, since their wetlands buffer, the stream exists on the Cortland side, areas, issues like that. It's very important that the applicant gets back exactly what is called for. In this particular case, a number of items, the Board of Health and so forth, the letters did not convey exactly what was asked for. So I would say the real lesson to be learned there, because again, this will delay the applicant from moving forward, is to please pay attention to what you're asked for, write it down. If you have any questions, you can always call or write to the wetlands inspector and ask before a meeting. Therefore, you don't come into a meeting and then have a problem that way. Also, the stormwater management, we need to get some uploads onto the town website. We're obviously coming up on our deadline for the end of February, so we're going to need some actual training maps and so forth put up there. Obviously, also to the TV channel as well, because this is part of our process where we go out and actually try to educate the public as well about stormwater management problems. We've also had some climate smart meetings recently with Roberto Mueller, and there has been work between the climate smart group and the comprehensive plan group for the issues that are applicable there. They are also drafted a rough draft of what's called Path to Net Zero Building. This is basically a brochure that will provide residents and businesses in the town the ability to be able to evaluate their properties regarding greenhouse emissions and be able to evaluate what you currently have, what you could possibly get in the future, and actually do an evaluation to try to reduce your carbon footprint. They also have worked diligently on the fundraising end of it to secure at this date $14,000 out of $19,000 fundraising for the community programs, again, to support the item I just mentioned regarding the greenhouse admissions inventory. Then they hope to be able to complete that sometime in spring of next year. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
So you're coordinating with the clerk on the info
Yes,
upload?
yeah, I'll have to provide what we need to do for that. We have to get it done really by the end of February, ideally.
All right. Great, thank you. Recreation.
I attended the November 27th meeting of the Philipstown Rec Commission. Minutes and financial reports were read and approved. Amber discussed the financial status of the rec for 2018. As of the end of November, they had collected 97% of the proposed income and dispensed 82% of their expenditures. The commission held elections for 2019 calendar year. Joel Coneybear was elected chairman, Bill Mazuka vice chairman, John Masick, who's here this evening, is our secretary, Phil Kotnak as treasurer. The rec department hosted the Thanksgiving senior luncheon on November 14 with 110 people attending. The Friends of Philipstown Rec reported that due to the snowstorm on the Thursday before the Castle to River Run, it was postponed and rescheduled for March 31st of 2019. They had nearly 200 runners registered for the race. The commission discussed the replacement of the gymnasium floor. They finalized the details and instructed Amber to proceed with the project, which will actually start tomorrow. They were supposed to be there today, but they're starting tomorrow, from what I understand. The next meeting is scheduled for December 18th at 7:30. John or Judy, do you have anything to add to the Rec Commission report? Did I get everything?
You covered it all.
Did I get it?
Yes,
All right.
good job.
All right, thank you.
Very good, John.
That's it.
Very
I did
good.
well.
Thanks, Brown Noser. I mean, Philipstown Communities That Care.
I think we'll tie that into the Addiction Resource
Good.
Coordinator's report. So-
Good idea.
Yeah.
Planning Board.
The planning board did not meet due to the snowstorm last month. They will be meeting next Thursday, December 13th, 7:30 at the old VFW Hall.
Thanks, Bob. Zoning.
That's me again.
Yeah. It's you like this. John.
I
Let's cut it
attended the November 5th meeting of the ZBA. There was one public hearing held. Betsy A. Haddad, 19 Lake Celeste Drive in Garrison. The applicant was seeking several variances to renovate an existing home. The public hearing was held and all approved unanimously. The next ZBA meeting will be in January. 1/14/19 is the date. They do not meet in the month of December.
It's because they're smarter than everybody else. Highway.
I don't have a highway report,
Permit?
sorry. Permit either.
They don't have a
We didn't-
permit either.
We didn't get anything, it didn't come
We
down.
didn't get it.
Building and land acquisition, we're continuing to work toward getting the building project off the ground. We have to do the hazardous
That's ready.
materials.
And the engineer's report is ready as well.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, it's pretty reasonable. We should go ahead and,
I think, pull the plug.
yeah, pull the plug on
Pull
that.
it.
So we have an engineer's report for what the expenses will be to prepare the mechanicals for this building. And it was less than $10,000. I think it was like $9,600, so it was a good number. So we'll be adopting a resolution to go ahead with that in the very near future. And then the hazardous materials, handling the mitigation of that is another component, but we have to get them in here to identify that, but that was only like,
It's $3,600.
$3,600.
And figure out what's here.
figure out what's here, yeah,
Right.
and then, so,
Document it.
we're gonna have to go ahead with that also. Cemetery Committee,
Okay, the Cemetery Committee met on November 13th. Basically, on this last month, we took down 2 trees. Thank you to Jerry for Philipstown Tree. That cemetery keeps having issues with trees. Also, obviously, we had finished the fall cleanup. We also started to look into ground radar. Hopefully, over the winter time, we can move that forward, and we can possibly be able to actually try to evaluate some of the cemeteries, the 2 village cemeteries, because we have open areas, and we would like to determine whether there are people actually buried there or not. The other thing we're moving forward on is actually, besides mapping, I talked before, that's a very slow process where you have to go grave by grave, and it's a lot harder than you really realize, and the maps and the descriptions are wrong, a lot of them, and people made changes, and so it's a slow go for us. But in addition to that, we're also, I tasked each of the members to pick an actual stone. If you go up on Good Cemetery and you actually teaches you how to actually properly clean a stone off. And I've asked them to try to pick ones that obviously have particular sayings on there so that it might lead more information. Sometimes we can't read the name well, but we might get further clues by actually what was written on there and so forth. And then obviously their people are buried as a group, so then we could maybe find out some more information about the actual family for that area. So this is something we're going to be taking up as well. And that's pretty much all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Addiction Resource Coordinators Report.
Hello, good evening.
Hi.
Danielle Pack McCarthy, Addiction Resource Coordinator, Town of Philipstown. Lots to report. I haven't been here in a while, so I just wanted to give, and I know Nancy does a great job giving the general feel for what I've been doing. First, I want to thank you, the town board, for their support and looking forward to next year's budget. And I appreciate the support and the feedback that this is a needed position, which I feel really strongly about. I've been in this position since March, and I can really say that I am busy. I'm very busy. And so, which is a good thing, but also a striking thing when you consider how our town is so small. It's become really aware to me, and this is where a lot of my meetings and the work that I'm doing is based and focused on getting more resources for our community, which we've talked about through our coalition, Philipstown Communities That Care, for years. But it's not until being in this position that you can really see how underserved this community is, and how working with real families who are calling me up and asking for resources and referrals, and then we're sending them a half an hour away to Carmel to services that are limited there as well. It's not like there's waits. There's sometimes the match is not right with the treatment providers in terms of psychiatrists, in terms of counselors that are there, and so that's something that you really matters a lot. And so I've been working within this community to identify therapists who are already doing work around addiction and around mental health services. Creative arts therapists they're located in Nelsonville, right by Thrift King, where that building, kind of that area is there.
They'll know Jay Brennan, 'cause
Yes,
he's a carpenter.
Yeah, and they've been super supportive of the work that the coalition is doing and the work that the town, the resource coordination, I'm working towards. So in terms of offering me private space to meet with families, I've also used the building department as well. Sometimes depending on what's going on in there, if people have to pull files, it's a little bit, then it's a little bit tricky. So I've met with Judge Linson here. I'm doing a lot of work with the court, and sometimes have used this space to meet with families. But it's just real needs that it's busier than I even anticipated in terms of the logistics. And so I think the town is doing such an amazing job in supporting this position, but I'm looking towards other resources, how we can get county funding here for the specific, for these mental health and really behavioral health, which includes mental health and substance use disorder resources. And so instead of the county funneling money directly just to one or two agencies, Cove Care being one of them in Carmel, trying to establish something here that we can have a seat at that table and get some of that funding that's trickling down from the state to the county. And I really believe that it's needed here, and I really believe this community can do it. I'm trying to build these community conversations with local leaders who are real doers in the community, and trying to brainstorm ways that we can make this happen. People stop me all the time. What can I do to help? How can I donate money? What can I do to help the families? And so I feel like the time is right to start really looking at how we can really build something here, build some tangible services. Related to that, Nancy and I met with New York Presbyterian Hospital, who has new offices right at Butterfield, to look at what kind of behavioral health services they might provide. There's nothing right now that is situated in those offices, but they have really amazing programs in their Westchester building. And so we had a really good conversation with them about, and really pressing them, well, we know you're here in our community now. What kind of services can you provide for our residents? Their Westchester programs are open mostly only to Westchester residents. So we'll continue to have that conversation. They wanted statistics from us in terms of our town population, services provided already, looking at like overdose numbers and people, families impacted. So Nancy and I are going to gather that information and get it to them. But it was a productive conversation. I'm currently trained. I'm now trained in mental health first aid for adults and for adults working and interacting with adults, as well as adults working with youth. And so we're looking to put a date on the calendar, hopefully in early March, that the town can offer mental health first aid to residents living here. And so we're looking at exploring ways to offset the cost of something like that for residents. The school district's also really interested in this. I have a meeting with Garrison School next week. They are ready to put it on one of their training dates for staff development, and Haldane also is very interested. So mental health first aid, for a little background, is basically like a CPR for mental health and mental wellness. And so it trickles down from from the Behavioral Health Council, which is a national program, and in hopes that providing this kind of awareness for people's mental health and wellness can become just as common as people taking a CPR course. And it's very much, I'm a licensed social worker, and I thought I would go to this training and just be kind of going to check off the box, but the training is amazing, and so I really can feel confident in endorsing it and providing it to our community. And just different people who work with young people, but even businesses find it really useful in working with employees, different sectors of the community, in just assessing every day. And it's not in terms of, we're not expecting people to become practitioners and diagnosing, but just assessing whether someone is in need of professional help and could use a resource to professional health services around mental wellness. So I'm really excited about that, being able to provide those services. And so I'm just trying to spread the word that I am trained, and more details. I can provide more details upon interest. I've been going once a month to Judge Linson's court for her criminal court. So I've been here providing my card, giving out some resources. And Judge Linson has really been, even on the off time, we talked the other day, and she said, I could have used you in traffic court this week. And so she's like, I gave out your card more in traffic court than I did for criminal court. So it's just, we're looking at ways that I could be a little bit more proactive as well, instead of giving Judge Linson giving my card and wanting the person to call, seeing if they could sign some sort of permission that I could actually get their information and give them a call, because a lot of these people are in crisis, and it's not, they're hard pressed to make that phone call. That's what I'm finding with the families that I'm working with. I've gotten referrals from the school. I've gotten referrals from the sheriff's department, SRO at the school, and families. And the families, it's the families who are really struggling in terms of trying to provide the services and finding treatment for their loved ones, and how stressful it is that this position, if I can make some phone calls and find out some information and work with the family, it takes the stress level down a little bit. And that's what I'm finding is really useful. A mom I spoke with said, I was putting her in touch with someone else who's a family navigator who helps people at the county level try to kind of navigate the system. And she said she knew she needed to follow up with this woman, and she got a good feel from her the first time they talked, but she was just too tapped out to even make a follow-up phone call. So I said, she's like, I don't want to go through this information all over again. So I said, let me fill her in, and that way you guys can just jump off from where, where we left off. So that is huge, I think, for these families to not have to repeat themselves. And it's really like this navigation and coordination has been really, really effective, hopefully. I'm trying to legal aid is here usually during court, and I'm trying to press them. I had a meeting with them this week to try to see if maybe they can have a presence over here in Philipstown to meet with their clients over here. Clients have to go and meet face to face, and it's only during certain hours. And so I'm continuing to press them on that a little bit to see if there's any feasibility for that.
She's doing my job.
Make my job easier when you're
Such a
over.
dream.
And so yes, I think that is a good summary. There's lots of work still to do, and especially around looking at the cost of treatment and people, families trying to get treatment for their loved ones, and how to navigate that system is just, I'm learning every day so much, and I'm in it, and I'm learning so much. So for these families, it's really a stressful process. So it's really valuable to have this position for them. So, and that is my update.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow.
Is there a higher number of addiction rate in Philipstown than in other communities in the county? Do you know? I mean, I don't know.
I'm trying to piece together that data. And that's, I think, a gap too. I'm trying to pull. I've tried to pull the emergency personnel together to try to gather that data. The sheriff's been really helpful too in kind of passing along. I don't know if the rate, I think, is similar to other towns in Putnam County.
And
So.
do any of the other towns offer anything similar to what?
No, this is unique.
And-
When you consider the other towns over, the resources are
Close.
where the other towns are.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was being walked around by one of the sheriffs and going to legal aid and going to probation to learn
Everything's
about
right
their
there.
probation, their PINS program, their PINS prevention. And we were just walking. In Carmel, we were walking. I'm like, there's Carmel High School. There's this. It's just a.
When
yeah.
you're called by the sheriff's department, is there anybody outside of Philipstown that you're providing services to, or is
No,
it?
no,
it's
and
strict-
I say no. I say no.
Okay, so that's
Legal
what I was
aid was
gonna-
ready. They're like, "Can I give your cards?" I'm like, "No, no."
Right, that's what I
So,
was concerned with.
even though it may happen that I could appear in court in Carmel for
Right.
someone for a
From
Philipstown
Philipstown, right.
resident, I'm restricting myself to
Please,
Phillips.
right.
Yes.
And the other thing is, after the renovation, we will have a private conference room
Oh, that's
downstairs,
great.
so
Yeah, that'll be
you'll
huge.
able to utilize
But
it.
I'm getting a lot of feedback. It's interesting, even at the coalition meeting, at our regular coalition meeting last week, and people are saying, oh, I wish localizing resources, that's the way to do it. I wish our town was doing something like this on the more local level, because the resources are so confusing. Like, we had someone present. It was
Our
like,
heads were spinning.
oh my gosh, we were all like, thank you for presenting. And I said, I need a week to process everything she just said. So it's just to break it down. And that if those were families in there listening to that information, it's just like in one ear and out the other. So localizing it really, I feel like, is effective. And we're small comparatively, so we should be able to do this. I really feel like we would be able to. This isn't like thousands of families that we're trying to find resources for. So that piece of it makes it feel a little bit more manageable and hopeful. So.
I just thank you for taking something that didn't exist and like pulling it out of the air and creating something out of it, because it's like you're really making it coherent now. Something we didn't know how it would all fit together, what this position would be, how we would get resources or what it would look like. And now for me, there's a clear picture of what it really looks like.
We were questioning Nancy when she proposed this for a job description, and I think it's still evolving, and
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
you're gonna have to write it up while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Thanks again to the
We're
board.
glad
for
it's-
Thank you for
supporting it.
providing the opportunity. Thank you.
Just when is the next Coalition Cares meeting?
Oh gosh.
I have- I'll forward it
It's
to you.
January. I think it's the fourth Wednesday in January. So we're meeting every other month now, and we
every other
alternate
month.
between North Highlands and
then library?
Garrison Library. So
Oh.
the next meeting will be at the Garrison
Desmond Fish
Desmond
Library,
Fish Library. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the great tragedies is the fact that we seem in this country to have so much money for incarceration and very little money for treatment.
Yeah, and that's Sheriff Langley is really the program over there now looking at just even detox in the jail and what kind of services can be provided there. In terms, you have people sitting there, and how can we be effective? I'm trying to kind of push my way in. If there's families I'm already working with, and they end up in jail, can I be a presence there so that there's a connection between coming out and re-entering into the community? So
Get you into jail, Danielle.
yeah, exactly. I want to go there a little bit. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I would urge everyone to educate themselves about this issue too. I mean, people, if it's not affecting you, people sort of gloss it over, but there are, a lot of resources out there just to learn about it, even watch a documentary, and there are just some really heart-wrenching documentaries that made about this. It's unbelievable, the things that are going on, and, to have this effort in Philipstown is just great, so thank you.
The next meeting is January 23rd at the Desmond Fish Library at 3:30.
3:30 to 4:30. And I have a new work number. I have a work cell that is 845-260-1001. So that was, I didn't have text functioning at first and didn't realize how young people really want to be texting me instead of getting on the phone with me. So it's making my life a lot easier to have the new function.
Good.
Thank you, Danielle. Jeez.
All right.
Yeah.
On to the agenda.
On to the agenda. The first item is the resolution adopting the local law.
So I would entertain a motion to table this resolution until a date in the future. We won't be able to establish that right now until I meet with the people at Magazino.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
The next item is a resolution awarding the 2019 material bids for the highway department, and I have a 23-page.
You want to read it?
She's got it.
I've been there. And these are the recommendations from Carl Frisender, Highway Superintendent. They're all highlighted.
Right, so this is something we do every year. These are the materials that the highway department will use in 2019. It all goes out to bid, and the lowest qualified bidder is the one that gets the work. One thing I want to look at is where we're getting some of the materials from.
One is Thale, the first one.
Patterson,
This one.
Tadala,
This
Thale,
one's Thale.
Cold Spring,
As long as I'm seeing delivered next to it, we don't have an
Downey.
issue. But if we're driving to Oshkosh to go get,
Patterson seems to be the farthest.
They didn't get anything.
Keat.
No, that's the
Okay.
blacktop. We're talking about,
What are you talking?
yeah, here you go. She's got it highlighted and written distance to win the bid.
oh, okay.
Yeah, we're looking at it.
Good, because that was a real item of discussion. Because it may look like the low bid, but by the time we send a driver to go pick things up, it actually doesn't work out that way,
This is Thale, which is right here.
right? And if we're getting it delivered, then it doesn't matter.
There was one from Elmira that we.
White.
Hopefully, we're not driving out there.
Yeah, that's guardrail.
That's delivered.
Looks like they considered it.
Yeah,
Most of it looks local.
yes, it is.
It's either Thale or local provider.
Yep. All right, good. All right, with that, I would entertain a motion awarding the 2019 material bids as specified by Highway Superintendent Carl Frisenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
And the next item is a resolution authorizing Carl Frisender to purchase the following equipment as per the 2019 budget. A 24-inch planter and water kit with spray, a trench paver, 7-foot grading attachment for the Bobcat, a 2018 Dodge Ram utility truck with plow, and a New Holland tractor with a York rake.
Very good. Yep, Mr. Santa Claus came early here.
He has been very good.
No,
Carl.
Yeah.
Carl's been very good. Santa's been paying attention, yeah. The
You, on the
only,
other hand, will get coal.
We have a burn cold. Yeah.
the only question I would have is, when is he making these purchases?
Not yet.
Right. So we're
Not
just
yet.
authorizing a
Yes.
2019 purchase?
Yes.
Okay. Because we have had issues with that in the past.
Do we know
Not
if any of
with
these are
Carl.
coming out of the chips at all? Because I know last year he purchased a vehicle or a tractor out of
Usually he would
CHIPS money.
specify if it was being done with CHIPS money.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, because I know last year we had a machine with chips.
All right, again, could I get a motion on a resolution authorizing Carl to make the purchases enumerated in item 3 on the agenda?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye.
The next item is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign the agreement between Thomas Drohan Waxman Pettigrew and Maley LLP for legal services for fiscal year 2019 at the following rates. For the attorney services, they did increase it by $10 an hour. It was $2.05. It is now going to be $2.10. For paralegal services, they remained the same at $95 per hour.
I have to say that we deal with a lot of attorneys. We have some really great attorneys working for the town, especially our town attorney. But this firm, in the areas they handle, are just so hyper competent that when we have issues of this sort that they need to deal with, we can go in with a lot of confidence. Judy Maley is the consummate professional. I cannot say enough about her. Every interaction I've had with her has been terrific, and they just give great advice, and they're always right on it for us. So they handle personnel matters, and you don't want to tangle with Judy Maley. You do not. She just really knows the law up and down, and is just a really nice person until you're on the other side. But they're terrific. So with that, could I get a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Gladly. It's good to have them. All right. Here comes some of the favorite times of the year. The reorg, just really, I can't sleep at night thinking about this.
Yeah.
The year-end meeting, can we go to the 27th on that?
Sure.
It was the day after Christmas.
That's like awful.
Yeah. Thanks.
I mean, apparently we were not very good because
I gotta bring Jack to the airport.
on the 27th,
That's right, in the morning. That's right.
you gonna be back?
I'll be back.
What are you driving like airport in Alabama or use any excuse?
Anything.
Oh, I have to
I
get
have to go to
the
shop.
dog's getting washed that day.
Is that gonna be 7:30?
My cat's
7:30,
birthday
yes.
Party.
Your end meeting's that's not as much fun as the reorg. Reorg January 3rd, that's fine, 7 PM. And then monthly town board meeting to follow that, January 3rd also, those are fine. But the only change there is year end meeting, that'll be December 27th, which is a Thursday.
Okay, the next is Code Enforcement Monthly Report. For the town, fees collected $43,142.10. There were 52 permits issued, 1 new 1 or 2 family dwellings, 5 addition, alterations, or repairs to residential buildings, 2 additions, alterations, or repairs to commercial buildings, 47 all other permits, pools, sheds, decks, plumbing, HVAC, etc., 33 COs issued, 2 stop work orders issued, 3 inspections of public assembly, and 4 inspections of commercial occupancies. And for the Village of Cold Spring, the fees collected $1,125. 6 permits were issued, 3 additions, alteration, or repairs to residential buildings, 3 additions, alterations, or repairs to commercial buildings, 4 COs issued, 1 stop work order issued.
Greg and Bob, been busy, everybody at the building department here, I mean, 52 permits, that's some month. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Doesn't seem like there's that much
Yeah, 47,
go, well,
Yeah.
is that all,
no, it's
33 COs.
47,
that's the town, that's not
33
even the
COs.
village.
yeah.
A lot
I
of
know they're-
inspections.
Yeah, and I know they're
Yeah.
cleaning up a lot of backlog stuff from the past, so. Our thanks to Greg and Bob. Saw Bob yesterday. He's amazing. I'm feeling like we're,
Forgetting something?
well, we're not forgetting something, there's just, I'm gonna come over and talk to the clerk for 1 second, offline. As the board knows, we didn't reach settlement on the cell tower issue on, out by Magazzino. Actually, the thing was right on Route 9. I don't think you could any longer call it Vineyard Road. It was just right there. And, it looked promising to begin with, but things just didn't work out. When we all went up and looked at the balloon test,
Yeah, balloon test
190
really
feet.
showed.
everybody
It was
was
gonna be
convinced at that
almost-
point this was just not the way to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, I
Fault.
know that Councilman Van Tassel has been, on the fact that, look, to our eyes, the need for this has not been proven yet.
Not there.
And that's something we'd really like to have established before we go having this 190-foot tower as our welcome mat to Philipstown. It's grotesque. And, it's not just about the unsightliness of it, it feels like these things are going to be obsolete in the very near future.
Right.
So, in my mind, these are tower companies that are scrambling to make money at our expense. So we're going to be going to court. We're actually back in court tomorrow. But we did have our attorney draft a letter to our insurance company that we do want to send out. The board got a copy of that letter, and obviously the contents of that cannot be made public. It's a pending legal matter, but I do want authorization to send that letter out.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Roll call, Councilman Flaherty.
Aye.
Councilman Leonard.
Aye.
Councilwoman Montgomery.
Aye.
Councilman Van Tassel. Aye. And I vote aye. Thank you, Tina. Anything else from the board?
Real quick, I finally got the name changed on the bill of the power for Central Hudson
No
at
kidding.
the rec center, which is under Garrison Institute.
Mhm.
Anyway, we finally got it changed to Philipstown Recreation Department.
Very good.
So now we can start moving forward with the proposal, getting the
solar.
solar panels up. So
Wow.
I spoke to them the other day. They want to come down one more time with their engineers and check a few other things.
Mhm.
So it was supposed to be this week. Obviously, it didn't happen. So hopefully next week we'll meet them down there with the engineers and try to get this thing moving forward in the right direction.
All right.
Finally.
Bob, thanks for your persistence in that. I know that was I tried for a while and I didn't get it done, so thank
Well,
you.
it's not, we're not there yet.
No, but
we're
I mean,
making some progress.
it's a
so.
big deal. Pete, it sounds like a little thing, but changing the name on
Yeah, it took,
on our energy
took me some
bill
months to get it done.
is
through
not
Central
easy.
Hudson.
They do not want these things changed.
You know, so it took a while. We
So-
got that. A couple other things with the holiday season coming around. I'd like to encourage everybody in the town of Philipstown to donate to Toys for Tots. Putnam County News has a box down there. There's a few other boxes throughout the town, but you got to think about the less fortunate little kids in our neighborhood here. There's, if you don't look around, they're there. So, Anthony Phillips, Mayor of Philipstown, a few years ago, he's been running that program for quite some time. So, I'd like to see everyone try to support him on that.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. It is important. Mike, anything?
No, the one thing I'd like to commend the other paper as well, the Highlands Current, for putting out, I talked to Climate Smart before. I mean, these are really excellent articles that have been out. I have learned a lot. I think they educate people. They give you an emphasis and awareness as to, what's really changing in our environment. They are changing, and we need to take measures to make changes now. If we make changes now, we have a lot more options available to us. If we wait down the road, we're going to have a lot less, and we're going to be forced to do certain things. So we really need, I think that they were excellent. I hope they'll continue. They're really helping us out in the Climate Smart program as well, get the message out, and I want to commend them for that.
Yeah, and I really think that the current administration in Washington is doing all they can by today announcing they're going to roll back another environmental regulation that would allow coal plants to come online without carbon capture. So, in one way we have people making all these efforts, and then the federal government and the EPA rolling back these really, really important regulations. And the fact that the head of the EPA is a former lobbyist for the coal industry, wow, surprise, surprise, that they're rolling back these laws. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I mean, when every scientist, scientists around the entire world know that this is happening and something has to happen. What kind of planet are we going to leave for the next generation? It's a big question, and coal certainly is an anachronism. I'm sorry, but, it's like manufacturing a lot of these things. It's tough for people who lost their jobs or losing these jobs, and I know it's very hard to tell somebody, look, go get retrained. Retrained in what? But resources need to be pumped into these communities that rely on these things like coal mining, and they're just not going there either. There's a lot of hyperbole about coal coming back. Coal is not coming back. It's just, and it shouldn't come back as a fuel. But also, we need to put resources into people so they can have jobs. It's just it's a tough situation, but that's not the way to go. So.
I just want to point out tonight I'm wearing Couture, Local Couture by Penelope Smith. But
Wow.
I, thank you, locally made. Not supposed to endorse anybody, but I have to say goodbye. And there were times where I couldn't wait to say goodbye, and there were times when I thought I could be here forever. And I was just gonna sit out there, probably, yeah. And I just, I could go out there right now and give everybody a hug and a kiss, but some of you might not like that.
You
so
could literally, there aren't a lot of people here.
Yeah, I might get hit. And I have really benefited from your company here, and I'd like to bring you all with me, and just know that I will. I really appreciate the professionalism of this board and all that I've learned and grown into over the years, and just most of all, what it comes down to and what I'm really feeling tonight is the volunteerism in this community on every level. I mean, you guys, train to save lives, you train to feed people, and you volunteer your time to sit on boards to just do nothing but help this community, from our theaters to our ambulance corps, our fire departments, our churches, and our town boards that, get together time and time again to volunteer to sort out the problems of the town and try to find great solutions, on every level. To everybody who's ever volunteered in this town, you guys are what makes it. And I go out, saying thank you to that. So we'll see you soon. Goodbye and good governing.
Well, you're not going too far, and I think this board is still living in denial that Nancy is leaving. I just have to say outright, I wish Nancy had lost the election. If I'm being honest, I just. But it's been my distinct pleasure to serve with Nancy. There are few people who work as hard as she does, or as sincere as she does, and care as much as she does. That's the thing I feel most strongly about with Nancy, is that she cares about people. She really cares about them. It's not, it's that genuine quality that comes across, and I think that's why people love Nancy so much. She's a great person, and it's been great working with her. She's an inspiration to me, and again, I know we'll be represented well at the county, but I sincerely do wish you were not leaving, so.
I had the pleasure of sitting with you for the past 9 years, I guess. And we had Betty, who brought dignity to the board, and I think you just continued. When I started, there was 3 females, and now we're down to 1. But your energy is unbelievable, and it's certainly going to be missed, and your smile, and the fact that we never know what was next with you here. So it's probably going to be pretty dull, but we will miss you. But you will be here every month sitting out there.
I'm
so.
sure.
So thanks, Nancy, for your support you've been giving the board and everything else in your years of being on the town board.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure working with you.
Thanks, you too.
I have been inspired by Nancy's, I got this on here.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, see that? I've been inspired by Nancy's dedication. Nancy was one of the people actually to ask me to even consider running. And her inspiration, her dedication to her position inspired me to say at least maybe I can do some things and put myself forward and try. And that's what I think you get from leadership, people that you can look at as role models to say, you know, they've done an excellent job, maybe I can do some good. And that's what gets people to come forward. And I think in our country, that's what we need. We need leaders that are inspiring people. I think Nancy has inspired myself. I think she's inspired others. I really think, I do feel like Rich, that I really don't like to see her go. But I know we really desperately need help from the county side. We are not getting it. We're not getting any discussions even. I mean, I don't have any problem with eventually them deciding differently. But when we have no discussions, this is my 5th year on the board. I've never had a discussion with the county exec. I find that very disappointing. And I think Nancy will go over there and help provide that ability back to us. So I'm looking forward to that in the future. And good luck to you.
You too, thanks.
Yes, we do wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll continue to see you here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anything else from the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Jackie Harrison. I live on 171.
Want to come up to the mic?
Sure.
Thanks.
And this is my daughter Lucy, who wanted to see what a council meeting was like. So we live at the top of Moog Road, and since hunting season has started, there have been a lot of gunshots in our area, and I know that there is part of that area that is legal hunting. It sounds very close to our house, but it also is extending after dark. And my impression after listening for a little while is that it's coming up through the aqueduct and also from the marsh down in the Cold Spring area. So we have called the police. We called the county, the Putnam County Sheriff's Department to ask for help with this. And I'm just hoping maybe there's something you guys could help us with to stop at least the hunting after dark and possibly any illegal hunting in the area.
Well, we certainly can make a call to the sheriff to make sure you get some extra patrols down there. We could also call the DEC since they regulate, hunting. So, and I know both those spots that you mentioned are popular historic spots, hunting along the aqueduct.
Former Camp Eden Park is also
Yeah.
hunting, which is right below you.
Right below Moog Road, yeah.
Below Moog Road.
And tonight it was practically like in our backyard. It was so close.
That's illegal after
Yeah.
sunset to shoot.
I haven't even seen
Yeah, you
it.
can't be within 500 feet of a residence, and you can't do it after dark, after sunset.
Sunset.
So, and the sun's setting pretty early, so.
Thank you very much.
So thanks for sitting through the
Thank you.
meeting to
Thank you.
Thank you.
tell us that. Thanks
Thanks.
for coming out.
Thank you.
Lucy? Thank you. We'll try to help with that.
Anything else?
Just real quick, about a month or so ago, I sat with the employee handbook that we're working on. So I did meet with the organization who's putting this together. We only had one meeting so far. I can only stay for about the first hour, but at least we're making some progress to get that moving as well. So I don't know when the next meeting is going to be planned for, but I think it's something that we all agree to that we need, and I'm glad we're moving forward with that.
We know we need it, yeah. Thanks, Bob. John, come on up.
Just a quick announcement. I want to thank Nancy for her inspiration in this community.
Thank
I
you.
wouldn't be involved if it wasn't for you, so thank you and for all that you do. Also, Boy Scout Troop 437 is having their annual Christmas tree and wreath fundraiser sale at North Highlands Firehouse this weekend. Want to thank the North Highlands Firehouse for providing a location again, but if you're available this weekend to stop by and support the Scouts, we'd love to see you there. It's December 8th and 9th, December 8th and 9th, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the North Highlands
Dress
Firehouse.
warm, it's gonna
See
be
you
cold this
Yeah.
week.
And go Army.
Yeah.
You got it.
Nat, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Hard act to follow, the Nancy, the Nancy Farewell series.
it quick, right? That was good. The Irish goodbye.
This is the 1-minute update on the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee activity. I'm Nat Prentice, coordinator of that group, the person that Nancy got to do this, which I'm very happy to have done. So we have begun a public engagement process. The committee did produce a draft update of portions of the comprehensive plan. That draft is available in long form knocking down of trees, but it's also on a website called Philipstown2020.org. And hopefully we're not going to print very many more big copies of it. We're going to hopefully get the word out that it's on Philipstown2020.org. And there is lots of opportunity in Philipstown2020.org to interact with the draft, to comment goal by goal, make a general overall comment, send us an email. So my job in the next month or two is to make sure everybody knows that that's an ongoing process. We did have a couple of public meetings and we'll have a few more. I'm going to give you a copy of the one-pager that we've been using to start the discussion about the goals. But for me, the most important thing is that we just get this word out, that there is a website, the draft is there, that's the update. The old plan is there too. It's on the town website, of course, but it's there too. And this is a place where you can make comments once you've had a chance to read through the draft, because the committee is quite well aware of the fact that we're just 12 people who took a first whack at putting together an update, and there are a lot of great ideas out there, and a lot of other people in the town we haven't fully engaged with yet. So.
Continental Village, there's a lot of people show up.
It was a good
Yeah, it
turnout.
was a
Yeah,
good
the
turnout.
Continental Village, we've probably had 15, I might say 20, but we probably had 15 people turn up at both Continental Village and the North Highlands, but you guys know how to, this is just tough duty, and it doesn't, unless we had something really juicy and controversial, then that'd be, so maybe we'll get there, but people are stepping, coming. We've got people are just stepping up, and our circle is widening, and I think our true representation or the representativeness of the plan is growing. I do want to make 2 quick requests for support. Good news is neither of them involve any work on your part, nor any money.
Just yes.
The first one is just, this is just kind of an early conclusion we've reached. One of the things that we get a lot of requests for is, can't we help the institutions in town, the nonprofits, the churches, the libraries, the schools, find a way to coordinate all their events. And I'm just going to introduce you to a name. There's a company down in Westchester called Burbio, B-U-R-B-I-O, who has requires nothing. There is no money involved. This is entirely free service. They help towns, and it can be as integrated as it wants to be. It can be just the schools, can be if the town decides that we should pull all this together and all the information about the town meetings, as well as the school meetings and the library meetings and the church meetings. If in fact we want one place to do it all, this Burbio service is really worth looking at. So it's just going to be, just throwing out a name at the moment, and the important part is that there's no money involved. This is a free deployment service. They've done it in Warwick, New York. Is that Warwick or Warwick? Warwick. Yonkers has done it. White Plains has done it. Several towns in New Jersey have done it. These guys have technology for scraping up all this data and putting it in one place. Just one thing that we'll come back to you on. The other thing is I want to ask for your support in our making an application to the Hudson Valley Greenway for, we think we can maybe get some money from them in connection with finishing out our comprehensive plan, and the fact that you all have been so supportive of the Greenway and have allowed us to become, what do we call it, a community comp, a compact town, aren't we? Whatever it is, we're an extra level of Greenway. So if we come around with the application and ask you to write a letter of support for it or sign off on it, we'll be delighted for you.
That deadline's in February
8th,
8th,
Feb-
so,
Feb-
yeah.
8.
Yeah.
So there you go, no work.
Maybe we should get a pitch to both villages and the
Yeah.
congressman's office. Those go a long, long way,
Yeah.
those letters of support.
And maybe even the county, Nancy.
Sure.
Uh,
Wow.
That's right.
I think I could swing
So
that.
that's where we are. Oh, yeah, let me give you these. These are just little, Bob, you got one.
And as Nat pointed out, the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee is always looking for
Yeah.
people to
We've had, yeah.
participate. And I find people are coming to me with more ideas specifically about transportation. And I always recommend that they get on the committee. People are reluctant always to get on a committee, but even if you don't want to be on the committee, feel free to get on the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee website, share your ideas, or, send me an email, maybe I'll get on that committee, I don't know. So,
Well, transportation was the biggest topic
It's a
at
big-
North Highlands the day I attended
Yeah.
that.
and then
That was the
other
biggest
people
thing.
who are not involved with the committee are bringing it up to me. It's a big issue for them, and they're working on specifics. So, I mean, between the Comprehensive Plan Update Committee, the Community Congress, and now this Philipstown Aging at Home group, there's a lot of, I'm trying to send them your way. So that's a really great group, too, working hard on getting more resources for senior citizens other than just a place.
It's mostly all volunteer, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh
it's all
yeah.
volunteer from
Yeah.
what I read.
Well, thank you so much, Nat.
I want to make another comment to just, once again, thank Nancy for everything she's done for our community by serving on this board and in so many capacities, and how delighted, although I know we'll miss her in Town Hall, how delighted we are that she's going to Carmel and that we'll have representation there. So thank you for making this commitment to the town board all these years and inspiring us, and now for representing us in Carmel. I think it's much needed, and we will see the results that we've seen here. I think it will be a good thing for all of us in Philipstown.
Thanks,
Thank
Judy.
you.
Thanks, Judy.
Thank you.
Anything else? We're only missing a couple people to speak. We'd have the entire audience. All right, vacancies, Recreation Commission 1, Conservation Board 1. Approval of vouchers, general.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Highway,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor? I vote aye. Continental Village Park District,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Continental Village Water District,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. You can only move, you can't second it.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
So moved.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
That's it.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thanks,
Everyone have a
Tina.
safe and healthy holiday season.
Yeah, have
Yes.
a great Christmas and holiday season.